Good morning. It's Thursday, November 14th, 2019. The Malibu City Council has a special meeting today. We will now hear comments from the public. Oh, should we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Mullen?
Here.
Councilmember Peak?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wagner? Councilmember Wagner?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pearson?
Here.
Mayor Farrer?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Scott Dietrich, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We have some public comments. There's only a few of us. Bill Sampson, Trudy Reynolds, Sam Hall Kaplan, Scott Dietrich, and Ryan Embry. Bill?
Good morning. I'm probably close to the proverbial single-issue voter. Malibu deserves excellence in its leadership. Our leadership has not enforced existing code. I'm not here to talk about the proposed code amendment. I think you got there because of the utter failure of management to enforce existing code. That should affect the evaluation you're about to make of Ms. Feldman. I had an email from Ms. Hogan, who I guess rarely writes directly back to constituents. She informed me at the time. And there has never been a legal opinion, to my knowledge, and I think this is still true, saying don't enforce the single-family residence restrictions. As I predicted some time ago, when a motel was opened on my street, another one has opened. Yes, cancer metastasizes. We're going to have more. And we're going to have more, and you're in the conundrum you now face. And it's a difficult problem, I know. You think you have to amend a code, thinking it'll get enforced. Well, the existing code has not been enforced, and that should be left only at the feet of the city manager. Somebody in code enforcement, a guy named Clevenger, I understand that he is a retired law enforcement. I don't know what branch. I learned that from his wife. I think it was a City Hall romance. She's in planning. And I noticed her name had changed. I had another thing I had to see her. Said, oh, they've got the right to rent it. Well, they don't have the right to use it as a motel. Nobody on staff, from top down, has ever attempted even to enforce existing code. That is a failure of leadership. I hope some of you are baseball fans. When managers don't do their job, no matter how good they may have been in the past, they lose their jobs. Ron Reineke took the Milwaukee Brewers to the World Series. The next year they were not doing very well and they fired him. He's a nice fella. He lives down in Orange County. He's now working in baseball again, but he didn't get it done. If you don't get it done, if excellence doesn't happen, you shouldn't be here. This is not AYSO, where you get a trophy for participating. This is the big leagues. We need to have what is already there enforced, because you're looking at an ordinance coming up, and if you adopt it, why do you think it will be enforced? Based on past performance, I know some of you guys are probably in the stock market, that's not indicative, but I think based on the past performance, the new ordinance will not be enforced either. And that is the sort of thing that we should not risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Trudy Reynolds.
Morning, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm going to read this because I don't speak extemporaneously very well. I voted for all the present members of the City Council during the various past elections. You are holders of the public faith that voters have in our great democracy. I sat on the state and Los Angeles board of the League of Conservation Voters, which incidentally interviewed the candidates for Calabasas and Malibu's first cityhood elections, as well as state and national candidates. I've held elected office in a neighboring community and understand that not everyone loves every decision made by those elected all the time. I ask all of you today to look into your hearts and ask yourself if you are truly representing what is best for our beloved community. Everyone has an agenda when they are elected to fix one thing or another as they see needing a remedy, but ultimately you represent all, and you should understand that you are our safety net when trouble hits. Perception is everything. The good thing about a small town is that you get buttonholed at Ralph's. The bad thing about a small town is that you get buttonholed at Ralph's. Everything is personal here, right or wrong. Some of you are multi-generational citizens of Malibu. I'm a relative newcomer of 25 years. My kids attended Malibu schools, and I've worked here as a chef and have embraced the pleasures of living in a small town. I evacuated my somewhat disabled 80-year-old friend and her daughter's cats. The cats were my biggest challenge. I was alerted to the fire by smelling smoke. No emergency personnel warnings for her on Canaan or me in Ramirez Canyon. I was lucky, as was she, though her neighbor saved her house by grabbing a passing fire truck to put out the fire that burned up to the walls of her house and propane tank. The sadness and disappointment we feel is that of feeling unheard and dismissed. I repeatedly came to the emergency center trying to reach the city manager, to no avail. I did see Councilman Wagner and Mullen here. The bottom line is the independent study of the Woolsey fire revealed problems at the highest level. All are fixable, but not with our present city manager in place. I urge you to help us move on by looking for a better qualified person with a better skill set, better communication skills, and less of an ambitious personal agenda. We trust you to be our voice for a better Malibu. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sam Hall Kaplan.
Thank you. I've already submitted my letter, and I'm not going to read it. I just wanted to sum it up and call on this council that basically our leadership has been, in a word, inept. In the planning, there's been a lack of planning for the fire. Everybody saw it coming, and nothing basically was done. You hope for the best, but as I learned in the military, you plan for the worst. Second, we were missing in action during that and not working our way up the chain of command. In the chain of command, and I say this with experience, it works both ways, up and down, up and down. And finally, the rebuild has been whatever mustache you might paint on that pig has been terrible. There's been constant complaints. It has moved ploddingly. And I say this out of real experience in terms of having put up several thousand units in the past in other environments, particularly New York City. In summary, we don't pay someone that money to come up with excuses. And that's what we've had, excuses, and let alone we haven't had apologies. And that is pathetic. And you, by validating, by approving her, this contract, you become complicit in the malfeasance of the city. In summary, and I say this with sadness, really with sadness, and with experience, having served on state and federal at the highest level oversight committees, that she's inept and you should dismiss her. And if not, you become complicit in these malfeasances and subject to whatever actions there might be. I hate to see that. I hate to see that also because it's a waste of goddamn time and money for this council to go on and on with someone who is not serving them. You are the employer. The employer. She serves you. You do not serve her. And that should be made very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Dietrich. And then our final speaker is Ryan Embry.
Thank you. In the aftermath of the Woolsey fire, we're seeing both positives and negatives of our current system, our current structure of city governance. While Riva has done an excellent job of shepherding our finances, our strong city manager, weak mayor and council system let us down when we needed it most. The current system allows for almost no place for us at the decision-making table during major disasters. Our fate is in the hands of outsiders. Thus, the pleas of our Public Works Director to open more lanes on PCH were ignored for 5 hours. We were lucky all those cars in the traffic jam on PCH were not incinerated. The official city position at the time was those who stayed and fought the fire were a hindrance, if not criminals. Without a strong city presence, the repopulation dragged on and on. The after-action reports considers the response to the Woolsey fire and the repopulation a success. Consequently, we as a city and we as individuals are on our own during the next emergency. In hiring Susan and Jerry, Riva has made steps in this direction, yet with our current governing structure, we will once again not be part of the decision-making process in a major fire or other emergency. As of today, our city manager and all but one city employee do not live in Malibu. Will City Hall be shut down as in Woolsey or be a refuge? The certain arson watch teams still can't cross roadblocks to help police and fire and those in need. If you do not believe the after-action report was a cover-up of bureaucratic bumbling, consider that most of us were in this room last January when Chief Osby stated that 40% of LA County fire resources was sent north to Paradise. But the after-action report doesn't say anything about that. And in fact, we're now told those resources were never sent. Either Chief Osby doesn't know where his teams were, his strike teams, or someone is lying. Once we bragged Malibu as a way of life, but there are strong forces that would end that. Supervisor Kuehl halted the Big Rock-controlled burn and voted for camping fires, which will be unsupervised. I urge you to take back control of our city. Please agendize changing our city government to a strong mayor directly elected by the people. This would require a ballot measure. We'll still need an executive to manage day to day, but it's not the person, it's the structure we need changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Ryan Embry.
I'm going to have to speak fast. I think everybody wants to know, the elephant in the room is who called this meeting at 10 a.m. today. Was it truly Karen Farrer, our mayor? And if so, there probably would be a public record that would prove that. But that has been a big discussion item. This is a terrible time to be conducting this evaluation because of all the circumstances behind it. It's not like all the other evaluations. There are several items I wanted to bring up, but what do? We compare performance to where we've been. That's important for us to improve and perfect. So I'm going to go back to 1993, and I've said this before, and I said this at the county meeting. We had a city manager trained in public administration. As our city manager was David Carmody. He lived in Agoura Hills. He said, I will get to City Hall if we have an emergency. I will take a helicopter, I will ride a horse, I will get there. And you don't abandon ship, you don't close down an emergency operations center just because the city's having a fire. This building, which has emergency operations equipment in it, has a generator and is basically subterranean. This is a concrete building with parking lot all around, defensible. We lost the ability to feed real-time intelligence to the person in command, the fire department, whether it was CAL FIRE or LA County Fire, during the Woolsey fire because we didn't have people here. It's called having a screaming fit. That's how you get intelligence when necessary to those in command. But if your eyes are closed or if you're not here, you can't do that. So I do want to say our performance during the Woolsey fire we know was terrible. But to evacuate an emergency operations center of this city, of all cities, during an emergency like that was poor judgment. And to be in delusion and denial and to say I did everything right, David Carmody's speech to the peers of city management, FEMA, and the Red Cross a year later was, I hope I get the number right, I think it was the 7 things I did wrong. We didn't need an after-action report because we identified them internally and they were brought out in public. But the Woolsey fire was a terrible test of both city manager, the city council, the fire department, the county, everybody. But it happened and it was real. And we have to understand that you don't retreat from that. We had a lot of problems even before and after. We've had this sham party on the beach, the fashion shoot. We had a from within concept to sell the city's most prime land on Civic Center Way when we don't have facilities for teen centers, skate parks, and so forth.
Thank
and these
you.
things should have been vetted by the council, you.
That concludes public comments.
Madam Mayor, can I just mention for the record that you also have in front of you 17 emails that Heather has printed out and put before you on today's topic. And so that'll be possible part of the comments that you'll hear.
Thank you.
Let me read you out. So at this time, we're going to recess to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and 54957.6 to discuss the 2 items that are listed on the posted agenda.
Thank you. We will recess now at 10:18.
Now let's go ahead, because I got to make that.
Okay, we are resuming the meeting, and we have a report from the city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The special meeting convened, I lost my agenda, but at 10 o'clock, and we recessed to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54947 and .6. We discussed both of the items that are listed on the posted agenda, and today took no reportable action. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.